From the 11 Alive studios, this is the Georgia Vote with Faith Jesse and Zach Merchant.
Well, good morning and welcome into the Georgia Vote. The race for Georgia's U.S. Senate race is heating up with a new contender launching a campaign.
That's right. Another Republican throwing his hat into the ring this week, and his announcement comes in a big rig truck.
It's time to send a trucker to the U.S. Senate to steamroll the radical left, deliver on President Trump's America First agenda, and put the people of Georgia back in the driver's seat.
All right, that's Congressman Mike Collins touting his MAGA credentials and taking shots at Democratic Senator Jon Ossoff. Collins, who represents Georgia's 10th district, which includes parts of Athens and beyond, calls himself an America First conservative.
He launched his Senate run on the social media platform X, and he is now joining a GOP primary that has been changing quickly over the last few weeks. Congressman Buddy Carter, of course, who has positioned himself as a self-styled MAGA warrior, is in this Senate race, and he's been there for months. But the rest of the field is evolving. Former Tennessee football coach Derek Dooley is expected to launch a campaign soon with Governor Brian Kemp's backing. Two sources confirmed to the 11 Alive political team. While State Insurance Commissioner John King, he dropped out of the race last week.
All right, let's look on the other side of the aisle. Former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms. She just got a pretty big endorsement in her run for Georgia governor. The nation's largest federal workers union, AFGE, is backing her campaign, saying Bottoms is a strong advocate for working families and federal employees. Now, this endorsement comes after she met with former CDC workers in DeKalb County, where she promised to protect jobs, lower costs, and fight back against federal cuts. Now, she's set to face several Democrats in the primary, in this gubernatorial primary, including State Senator Jason Estevez and State Representative Derek Jackson.
Well, meanwhile, two powerful state politicians are squaring off in the Republican primary race for Georgia's governor. We spoke with Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones, one of the candidates, a few weeks ago right here on the Georgia Vote, and now we are sitting down with his opponent, Attorney General Chris Carr, as the two candidates battle it out for the party's nomination. Your opponent, Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones, has made eliminating the state income tax a cornerstone of his campaign. Do you share his view? Do you want to see Georgia's income tax eliminated?
Let me be clear. When I'm governor, Georgia is going to have the lowest tax burden of any state in the southeastern United States. But you have to focus on income, sales, property, fees, and all the taxes and regulations that are burdening business. My question to Lieutenant Governor, though, is if you're going to blow a $16 billion hole in the state budget, he's been in the legislature for 10 years. This issue's been talked about. He's been Lieutenant Governor for 3. Why is he bringing it up now? Why hadn't he done it before? I would say, hey, he says he's going to do it. Show the people of Georgia the plan.
Are you seeking President Trump's endorsement?
When I'm governor, we're going to continue to work with President Trump on making crime illegal again. We're going to make sure that we have to deal with all the issues, making sure that the border is secure, supporting him, because we have to deal with fentanyl and human trafficking and gangs, continuing to lower that tax burden. And I think it's great that we've got an administration that we can work with.
I just want to be really clear and make sure you have a chance to answer that directly as well. Are you seeking President Trump's endorsement?
I want to win this race, and we will do whatever it takes legally, ethically, and honestly to do that. And I think the president's going to see I am the only one that can win the primary and the general and make sure we keep a Republican governor in the state of Georgia.
That sounds like a yes, but I just want to be super clear. You are seeking the endorsement.
The president, I think, is going to recognize I am the only one that can win the primary and the general and keep the governor seat in Georgia Republican.
Recently, your campaign filed an ethics complaint against your opponent, Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones, accusing his campaign of campaign finance irregularities. The State Ethics Commission rejected that complaint. The Jones campaign released a statement calling it a, quote, weak attempt, and they went on to say that the campaign ethics complaint was, and this is a quote, exactly what you'd expect from a campaign that's losing steam. How do you respond to that?
Well, the Ethics Committee just dismissed one part of a complaint that is still with them that includes an advisory opinion on a number of different issues. But this is what it comes down to. Whether it's ethics or legally, number one, who gave the lieutenant governor his loan? Was it him? Was it somebody else? Was it a family member? And why won't he answer that question, number one? Number two, there's no doubt that he cannot use the money that's in his lieutenant governor's leadership PAC. The courts have said this. He can't do it. Why won't he address those issues? So we've got a lot of different options we still have. We think that the Ethics Commission was legally and factually wrong in the one area that they dismissed, and we look forward to continuing to litigate this down the road.
You said you've got a lot of different options still on the table. What are those options?
Oh, I'm not going to give everybody all the behind the scenes, but trust me, we're looking at this issue and we'll continue to focus on it.
In 2020, there was a group of conservative lawmakers who questioned the validity of the presidential election results here in Georgia. The office you're running for, Governor, it plays a key role in certifying those results. We asked your opponent this question. We want to make sure we ask you it as well. If you were the governor in 2020, would you have done as Governor Brian Kemp did and certify those election results?
Absolutely, 100%. And look, we had to go to court 16 times to defend the state, and we prevailed every single time. And that's important because, again, we believe in the rule of law. Now, look, I'm a Republican. I wanted my team to win back in 2020. But what happens is we didn't lose for the reasons that some said, including the lieutenant governor. And that is, you know, there wasn't widespread voter fraud such that it would overturn the election. But I would remind everybody as well, Stacey Abrams didn't lose in 2018 because of voter suppression. Not one single Georgian who was eligible to vote in 2018 was kept from voting. We know that because she filed a federal lawsuit in court. And that federal judge, who happened to have been appointed by President Obama, dismissed all cases. So again, you want leaders that will stand up. The lieutenant governor has given us chapter and verse and changed the story over and over again. He went to D.C., he had a letter, he didn't have a letter, he kept it in an Uber, he didn't. And now he's come around to say that he would have certified that election. I said it before, I stood with Governor Kemp. He wasn't with us, but apparently now he is. And I'm glad to see him come our way.
In a recent interview with us, Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones defended his conduct in 2020, saying he was trying to preserve his ability to challenge the results of that election in court. Well, you can watch much more of that conversation, our full interview with Attorney General Chris Carr. It is streaming right now on 11 Alive Plus. And this is a good time to bring in our political roundtable because we have a lot to talk about and some great people to talk about it with us. Devin Barrington Ward is here. He's a progressive community organizer, political activist, and managing director of the Black Futurists Group. Also joining us today, Republican strategist Deanna Harris. Right now, she serves as managing partner at Midnight Rider Consulting. She is also a member of the Conservative Policy Leadership Institute Alumni Board. And new to the panel, making his maiden journey with us, is Chauncey Alcorn, a state and local politics reporter at Capital B Atlanta. It is so good to have all of you on the panel today, and we've got a lot to talk about. Deanna, let's start with you. We want a Republican's perspective on this. We just saw that interview with Chris Carr. He's running for governor. What's the state of this race right now?
Well, it's still unfolding. You know, we are waiting to see who else possibly could jump into the Republican primary. But we're expecting for those two to be the top two contenders. So,
I was going to say, besides Raffensperger, is there anybody else that you're thinking about?
And Raffensperger, not
he's obviously not, yeah.
You know, who may be jumping in, maybe not. You think it's going to be Colin Jones?
So we can have some of the crazies get in. Don't forget we have GRA folks that will possibly still try to attempt to make a run. And of course, those people do take away some of the vote when it comes to a primary. So that could lead us to a runoff eventually, maybe. But you never know what might happen.
And they probably, I mean, they would dispute being the crazy label. They would dispute that. But you're talking about in a primary, you have, you know, all the wings of a party, or they're all
Correct.
kind of involved in voting for this race.
Mm-hmm.
Devin, from a progressive's perspective, you saw that interview with Chris Carr. The 2020 election and certifying the results was a big issue for Democrats in 2020. Chris Carr was unequivocal in saying, yep, I would have certified it, and he stood by that in 2020 when he was AG. What's your reaction to that?
I think he's trying to appeal to independents in the middle to some extent. And I've been curious on how Republicans in both the gubernatorial race and the U.S. Senate race will try and pivot back to the middle. I think Chris Carr has made more of a clear pathway on how he's going to be able to pivot back to the middle. His problem will be, though, will he have the opportunity to do that? Will he be able to make it out of the Republican primary, which, you know, folks are going to double down on those conservative attributes?
I mean, it's really interesting that you talk about pivoting to the middle, because one person that does not seem to be pivoting to the middle at all is Mike Collins, who has just gotten into the Senate race. Chauncey, I want to bring you in on here. He is a staunch MAGA conservative, supporting President Donald Trump. Could that staunch Donald Trump, MAGA, America First, seem like Buddy Carter, who's also running for that seat, could that hurt them? Or could this be an advantage for them, as we saw with President Trump in the last presidential election?
Well, I think the right answer is it depends. We've seen certainly the MAGA brand take a huge hit while the president won Georgia by just over 50%. His latest approval rating, I think, in the AJC poll conducted in April was around 43%. So we've seen brand MAGA take a hit. Trump himself is kind of a political dynamo who's done well throughout his rise to power and prominence nationally. But the candidates he's endorsed a lot of times, particularly in Georgia, have not fared as well. So that's a problem for potentially in a situation where you also have the Epstein scandal, which has rocked the MAGA base. What was a core tenet of a lot of their support as a right-wing outsiders, in addition to the economy, which, while the numbers have gone up recently, a lot of Americans in Georgia still are not feeling that in their wallets and in their bank accounts.
We want to talk about, oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So I was just going to say that, although that might be true, we still have a primary to get through, and the primary voters care about what the primary voters care about. Something we might get caught up on and not remember is that this is a campaign, and voters don't necessarily remember what happened yesterday. So those things won't necessarily be as important when it comes to next year. So the primary, and then after July, they'll forget about that. So maybe they can go to the center after July, and when they win that primary.
Can we, Devin, go ahead, and then I have a
just
question
quickly,
as well. Yeah.
But the job of Democrats who are running in their primaries is not to forget what Republicans said in their primaries. So whoever makes it out of the primary, they're going to be handcuffed to whatever, ultra-conservative viewpoints they said in order to win their primary. They'll be handcuffed to that, to the general, if Democrats are doing their job of reminding voters of what they've said and their record that they tried to highlight in the primaries.
So much more, yeah. We're running out of time right now. The good news is that we've got a whole other panel, a block of our political roundtable coming up just after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Gwinet County Sheriff is sharing his stance on Georgia's immigration enforcement laws. House Bill 1105 requires state and local law enforcement to verify the immigration status of detainees in partnership with ICE. The sheriff says he does not agree with everything included in the law, but that it is his job to uphold it.
We're not going out doing any type of immigration raids, but if someone came in and ICE put a detainer on them, they come in under the legitimate charges, with a warrant, whatever, okay? And a detainer is placed, we're going to honor those detainers, okay? After 48 hours, if ICE has not picked them up, then we release them.
House Bill 1105 is also known as the Laken-Riley Act. It was signed into law after her murder on the University of Georgia's campus last year. 26-year-old Jose Ibarra was convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison in that case. And during the investigation, authorities found he was in the country illegally and had prior run-ins with law enforcement both in Georgia and in New York. If you'd like to listen to the Gwinet County Sheriff's full news conference on immigration enforcement policies, you can stream it right now on 11 Alive Plus.
Well, now to this, the State Ethics Commission is going after an ultra-conservative political group tied to a failed loan company. A federal complaint says First Liberty Building and Loan raised $140 million from around 300 investors, promising some returns there. Well, those funds allegedly were used to make Ponzi-style payments to existing investors. Well, now the Ethics Committee has filed a complaint against a political group tied to First Liberty, saying it failed to file 24 financial reports and didn't report over $218,000 spent on political campaigns. They also gave $37,000 to the Georgia Republican Party, but Georgia Republicans say that they gave that money back.
We don't want to profit from any of this. We want to make sure that the victims are made whole.
The political group shared a name with the Georgia Republican Assembly, but Assembly President Nathaniel Darnell says that while the GRA authorized and promoted the PAC, it was a totally separate entity. Our panel is joining us back. And real quick here, Deanna, I know you want to weigh in on this story.
Well, this has been very intense, and I think that the Republican Party needs to really separate itself from the GRA and their affiliation with the issue that's going on with the Ponzi scheme, including the Frost. Most recently, Brent Frost stepped down from being on the board for the state party, and I think that was the right move. And you know, some of even the Georgia Republican candidates and incumbents have given back monies that have been donated to them, including Brad Raffensperger. So that's something that we really have to immediately separate ourselves from, to just, you know, let that work out and let those, whatever happens there.
And it's something we're definitely going to stay on top of as it continues to develop.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's shift gears here now, though, because this alleged Ponzi scheme was not the only news in Georgia politics this week. We saw a very prominent Georgia lawmaker, conservative Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, end the speculation and say she is not getting into the 2026 governor's race. Chauncey, you cover politics. Did that announcement come as a surprise to you?
Absolutely. I think that was one. I know that Senator John Ossoff said was bring it on when he there was speculation about MTG's jumping in the race. She's kind of seen as both tied to Donald Trump in support, but she has kind of broken with him on a couple of issues lately. She raised some issues and concerns about, you know, how the Old Boys Club in Georgia may have impacted her decision. And that has been something that has also been raised in other candidates who've bowed out before too.
And it's interesting because in that long post on X when she did that, she mentioned that. She also kind of did this ode to women, almost ode to moderate women. Devin, is this lining her up to speak to those? Because, I mean, she is popular with women, at least in her district.
Well, I think I'm interested to see what she will do next. I think maybe she sees there's a pathway in the leadership route in the House of Representatives. I've been wasn't as surprised about that decision, particularly because when she was making statements and even introducing legislation around the conflict in the Middle East between Palestine and Israel, and really questioning whether or not this American doctrine of we support Israel no matter what.
And calling it a genocide.
And calling it a genocide, and really questioning, calling then that doctrine into question, and how Republican and Democratic administrations have been complicit in that. And in some ways, she has even led Democrats on this issue. There were folks famously within the last 2 weeks who had lots of condemnation for progressives like AOC, who did not vote with Marjorie Taylor Greene to essentially defund weapons support for Israel in the ongoing conflict. And so I think she has earned some credibility with some bases of support that she might not have previously have had.
And we do have 30 seconds here, Deanna. I just want to ask you, Marjorie Taylor Greene coming out and calling the crisis in Gaza genocide, does this set the road up for other Republicans to feel like they can speak out?
I don't know if they will follow suit with her, you know, because this is more of an older subject matter, and a lot of people are looking to set themselves up to run for higher office. And so I just don't know that they will go, because she's going to stay where she is, right? Her seat's secure. The 14th district won't vote for anybody but her. And so with that, she can express herself. She can go outside of what President Trump wants. But anyone who seeks higher office or a different office, they probably need to play the role.
We don't have time.
She's not the only Republican that is saying that. I mean, even folks like Tucker Carlson, granted he's not in office, but is, you know, well respected in Republican circles, who are also calling into question. He had this really famous interview with Ted Cruz, where he kind of poked a lot of holes into the support that Republicans have shown, and Democrats.
It's something that we are going to continue to see. On that note, we are out of time right now. Stay with us. We'll be right back after the commercial.
Welcome back. This week, a state panel reviewed Georgia's medical marijuana and hemp laws to see if changes are needed.
That's right. So the committee is meeting ahead of the 2026 legislative session. Well, right now, THC oil is only available to patients with state-issued cards. Hemp products are more widely sold.
At a meeting Tuesday, two groups against expanding medical cannabis said expanding it will bring more crime to neighborhoods and hurt children. There are still 3 meetings for this committee, with the next one scheduled in Augusta on August 21st. Well, up next, our voice of the voter is a tech worker turned mushroom farmer. His message for Georgia's political leaders is next. We say it every week. You can't have the Georgia vote without Georgia voters. This week, we headed to North Georgia to meet Howard Burke in this week's Voice of the Voter. Where are we right now?
Thank you for coming out, Zach. We're at LJ Mushroom Farm in LJ, Georgia, about an hour and a half north of Atlanta.
When you tell somebody that you're a farmer, do you think that this is what they picture in their mind?
Definitely not. They're like, what, do you have cows? Do you have goats? But never the question is like, are you a mushroom farmer?
Yeah, no cows, no goats, but you do have all of this.
You have all these shiitakes.
You have not always been a farmer.
That's correct.
You were in IT.
Yes.
And took a hard pivot into this. That is no small change. What made you want to do it?
Just trying to feed people and also showing people where food comes from.
What do you love about it?
I still get happy every time I go into a greenhouse and see one mushroom grow. I feel like a little kid again, seeing that out, like being in the wild and seeing it. It just makes me happy, and also know that this is going to go in somebody's tummy and give them a little bit of boost of energy and keep them healthier.
There's a lot going on in our world and in our state right now. We've got some big elections coming up here in Georgia, not the least of which is a governor's race and a Senate race. When you look at the state of politics right now, what worries you the most?
For us here at LJ, what worries me the most is current tariffs, in a sense of that our box prices have gone up 8% 3 times, and we can't pass that on to our wholesalers because they want the mushrooms at a certain price. Our greenhouses are going up in price because of the metal, so that it really affects us and what we can do. So it makes me nervous on how the costs keep rising, but nobody wants to pay that much more for food itself.
What's the number one issue you hope the candidates who are running and the elected officials who are in office pay attention to?
We really want them to embrace small-scale agriculture. And kind of look what you can do with different infrastructure. We're challenged out here and only have single-phase power when most equipment runs on 3-phase power, and that's $1 million to bring out. So really just kind of the infrastructure of small-scale agriculture and leading to, like, it's the backbone of our community. In LJ, we have apple houses, chicken houses, and mushrooms. And by us increasing our infrastructure and getting support from our elected officials, that it can really make a difference with our community.
You've shared with us your number one worry, your biggest issues. We always end with this question. What are you most optimistic about?
Our growth and allowing people to see where food grows. Here at LJ Mushrooms, we see firsthand how the support from our elected officials, our community, can help us feed communities and do different things.
So Howard is the co-founder of that farm. He also has another title, CMO. You want to guess what it stands for?
Chief Mushroom Officer.
Chief Mushroom Officer.
There we go.
That's a good job.
Well, thank you all so much for being with us here today. We hope to see you back here next Sunday at 11 for another edition of the Georgia Vote.